America is not a racist country. When people say that, that's just a logical fallacy. Now, when I say America is not a racist country, the response typically is, are you denying racism? Are you denying that racists exist in America? No, I'm not. I'm also not denying vegetarianism. Vegetarians exist in America. Vegetarianism is real. But the fact that vegetarians exist in America does not make this a vegetarian country. Buddhists exist in America. Buddhism is real. That doesn't make this a Buddhist country. Crime exists in America. Crime is very real. There are a lot of criminals in America. That doesn't make America a criminal country. The existence of something does not generalize to the country. If you wanted to say that this is a criminal country or a Buddhist country or a racist country, it's the burden of proof is on you to prove that it is. Okay, so until I see some evidence, I have to tell you America is not a racist country. Now, I know some people are sitting there saying, what does he know? He knows nothing about it. He's a white guy. Well, congratulations, you're a racist. Okay, if you just generalized about me, if you just said because of the color of my skin that I don't know what I'm talking about, then you are a racist. Okay, because black people can be racist. White people can be racist, black people can be racist, Asian people can be racist. Every human being can be racist. Now, I know some college professors have floated this odd idea. There are certain odd ideas that are so stupid, you literally need to go to college to believe them. I give credit to Dennis Prager for having said that first, but it's true. Some ideas are so stupid, you need to go to college to believe them. And some college professors have floated this idea that only white people can be racist because it's all about power. No, it's not about power. Racism is about judging people by their race, by the color of their skin, by their racial history. And every single person is capable of being a racist. And if you say that only one race is capable of being a racist, that's a racist statement. If I said only black people are capable of being lazy, or only Mexicans are capable of being dishonest, those would obviously be racist statements. Of course, Mexican is an ethnicity, it's not a race. But I think you take my point. If you generalize and say that only one race is capable of a particular evil behavior or thought process, then you are guilty of coming to a racist conclusion about that race, about those people. But because people will judge me by the color of my skin, let me just say, as far as my own credentials in this issue, is that the reason I think about these issues at all, probably, aside from being a decent person who thinks about a lot of issues, is that it affects me personally. As a person who's in a black family, it affects me personally. Let me just get my wallet out here, and I'm going to show you a picture. This is a photo booth picture. Boy, I was a handsome devil back then. That's me with Raquel back when we were dating in 1987. Now, we were married in 1989, and we have two lovely children. I don't know if they like being called lovely, but they're just about grown now. My son has told me that he is an adult since he's 19, and my daughter is in high school. So we have two mixed race children, so I am a member of the black community by marriage, which, you know, I'm not saying that makes me special. I just wanted to give that perspective, so because I know people will say, well, he's just a white person who is probably a racist, and that's why he says these things. I've been married to a black woman for 28 years. We're still married. This is our home. And in 28 years, we've never received any heat from any white people about this whatsoever. In that time, we've received 3 racial comments, 3 negative racial comments. 2 of them were from drunk black men who were together in one incident. The other one was from a black man who had recently immigrated from Africa, who I think did not intend to offend, but was only curious about seeing a biracial couple, but what he said was sort of unintentionally offensive and sounded kind of racist. But we've never received a negative comment from a white person in 28 years. And go further, 31 years, counting the 3 years we were dating. And we've only received 3 negative comments from black people. So that tells you a lot about this country, you know. And I do want to say that if being married to a black woman for 28 years doesn't make you into a racist, then nothing will. That's just a joke, but it's true. Oh, and I wanted to say one more thing about racial topics before I call this off. You know, there's always that tiny fringe of every movement that ruins it for everybody. So let me just say for Black Lives Matter that I know that most of the people that attend these demonstrations are well-intentioned. Most of them are not the ones chanting, "What do we want? Dead cops, when do we want them now?" That's disgusting when people chant things like that. Here in my hometown of Minneapolis, there was a Black Lives Matter protest. I guess it was in St. Paul, but St. Paul is like the inferior Minneapolis. Across the river, we look down on them. But here in my home state, there was a Black Lives Matter protest where people were chanting, "Pigs in a blanket, fry like bacon." Now, let me say something about the people with the anti-police rhetoric, okay? Because I grew up poor. Even when I lived in a white neighborhood as a child, I was poor. I was right across the city line in a blue-collar suburb that was just a half-hour walk from the city line of North Minneapolis. My suburb was the second suburb, I believe, in Minnesota to get black people into it. And I moved into the city in 1985, which I think is 37 years ago, and have been in the city limits ever since. Moved into North Minneapolis, then moved into the uptown area, and now I live in the Powderhorn Park region right off Lake Street, where I've lived for the last 23 years. I've been in inner city neighborhoods for a long time. Like I said, I moved into the North Minneapolis in '85. Anyone who's ever been to a community meeting or a school board meeting or a neighborhood watch meeting or a precinct caucus meeting or a political meeting where the local city council person is talking to their constituents or the local mayor is talking, anyone that's ever been to any kind of community meeting in a urban, poor area with a lot of minorities. The neighborhood I lived in South Minneapolis was about 70% black. Okay. If you've ever been to a community meeting in any of these areas, you know that no one at these meetings ever says, "We want fewer police." Okay? That's just a fact. No one ever says, "We want less of a police presence in our neighborhood." The people that actually live in high crime neighborhoods are always complaining at every community meeting, every neighborhood watch meeting, every chance they get to talk to a council person or a mayor or anybody like that. They are always saying, crime, something needs to be done about crime, and we need more police. Why can't we have more police? Why can't we have beat cops on this street? Why can't we have more patrols? Why does it take so long for the police to come when we call them? This is what the people who actually live in high crime neighborhoods say. So, and the people, the black people and white people who actually live in the urban high crime areas never suffer from the delusion that the police are their enemy. That is something that college students and suburban posers say. That is not what people who actually live in high crime neighborhoods say. It simply is not said. Okay, I've been in the meetings. People get outraged and they demand more police, and this is what people in high crime neighborhoods want. They want more police. Okay, so when you see this Black Lives Matter protest, and again I say most of the people that protest probably very well-intentioned, good people, but when you hear that fringe in that protest and they're chanting, you know, "What do we want? Dead cops. When do we want them? Now." All the people chanting that are a bunch of suburban douchebag posers and college students. That's who chants that stuff, not people who actually live in urban areas where there actually is crime. Okay, So it's sad that there's always that fringe that ruins it for everybody. But it's the suburban posers and the college students and the professional activists. Those are the people that are anti-police. The people that actually live in urban neighborhoods, we want more police. And that's true of North Minneapolis, it's true of South Minneapolis, it's true of urban neighborhoods all over America. And if you don't know that that's true, it's because you've never lived in a high crime neighborhood. Okay, now I'm not going to, I could pontificate on and on about this, but it's hot here in my porch, and I just had to get that. I was listening to something on the news earlier which made me want to make this video, and I just want to get that off my chest. I do think that when people say America's a racist country, it's very damaging and disrespectful. The church that my family goes to is a church that's not only majority black, but it's actually majority I think the majority of the black people in it are Nigerian immigrants. And these people from Nigeria, unless they have a family member to bring them over, they always, the first person that comes over has to participate in a lottery to get the opportunity to come to America. And when they get that chance to come to America, it is like winning a big financial lottery to them. It's like the biggest thing. So, I mean, when people say this is a racist country, I mean, yeah, America is such a racist, oppressive country that black people all over Africa want to come here. Okay, I mean, why did all these Nigerians want to come here? They come here to make a better life for themselves. And they come here because they know that America is not a racist country at heart. America is a very fair country at heart. America is a country where, if you go back to the civil rights movement, a lot of young people forget that it was only some certain southern states that had segregation, and the rest of the country did not have segregation. And the civil rights movement, it came on television. Television only came into existence in the 50s. Nobody had televisions in the 40s. And the civil rights movement got started in the 50s, in the mid-50s. And by the mid to late 60s, it was basically over. The civil rights movement made amazing progress in about 10 years' time. And the reason it did was because once average white Americans all over the country could see on their television screen just how bad black people had it in these certain segregated southern states, white America was overwhelmingly on the side of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and the protesters. Okay, politicians don't change things unless there's political support for the change. And the reason so much was accomplished in just 10 years' time is because white people all over America were very supportive of the civil rights movement. So this is not a racist country. I mean, Barack Obama was elected with white votes. There weren't enough black votes to elect a president. Barack Obama wouldn't have won without a huge white vote, which he got. Okay, so when people want to generalize and say that this is a racist country, simply not true. This country has had incidents in the past that were absolutely racist, and it had a whole struggle with slavery, which was, decided in a very bloody war. And then there was this whole political struggle over segregation, and the Democratic Party cut the deal to get federal troops thrown out of the South, and they were able to go in and take away the rights that had been granted to a lot of black people. And that it basically took television. It basically took modern technology to expose that, and it took 70, 80 years for that to play out. In the historical scheme of things, that's actually a very short window of time. And America was founded on principles of the Enlightenment. And the principles of the Enlightenment are enshrined in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, and they are not racial. They apply to everyone. And those principles are why the segregationists lost one court battle after another. So, racist country? No. No, if you're going to say that if you're going to generalize and say that America is a racist country, you're going to have to prove it with some kind of evidence, and that evidence is not there. I know this country. I'm 56 years old. I've spent my whole life in this country. America is not a racist country. 28 years married to a black woman. My kids go to majority black schools. this neighborhood was majority black when we moved into it 23 years ago. Now it's majority Mexican. Thank you, Mexicans. You've made the neighborhood better, actually. There's less crime now. But it's true, and that's not a racial statement. It's just that the cheap apartments that used to be occupied by young single men are now occupied by families with children. And there's less crime in the neighborhood. But yeah, I've lived, in America a long time in majority black neighborhoods and majority mixed neighborhoods, and my kids went to a majority black school. I go to a majority black church, and I have to tell you, my experience for the last 28 years of marriage has been that America is not a racist country. Wherever me and my wife go, and we've traveled, we've been to Las Vegas and Cleveland and Seattle and all sorts of different places, San Diego, and we never get a hostile reaction from white Americans or black Americans or any Americans. Americans don't look at a biracial couple and have a racist reaction, because this is not a racist country. That's all I've got to say.